Most games have you do this when you start a new game, but what most of them fail to do is balance the difficulty according to the player, which is hard considering every player has a different skill set. But there have been games that throw you in the deep end and let you figure out how to play the game on your own. There's also been games that dynamically shift the difficulty based on player input. Megaman 11 does something that I think I've never seen in any other game do. It clearly communicates the intended experience and it tunes the difficulty for each setting with satisfying the skill for gameplay and challenge. So one of the most immediate ways you see this is with the double gear system. The speed gear lets you slow down time so you could catch a moment of breath to rectify your mistakes or even get a quick kill on enemy and dodge an obstacle. Power gear boosts your damage output so you could strategically use it at the right time, and they both have cooldowns that are not long enough to not abuse them. It's a modern design trend that doesn't interfere with the classic Megaman platforming in any way, as it's an optional mechanic that's there as a helping hand. This gives Megaman noobs like me to enjoy the platforming with its challenges without breaking controllers or frustration, as it also lets the professional players or experts play them on higher difficulties without detracting from the core gameplay. Of course, this is not the first time we've seen something like this. Celeste lets you tune its difficulty with its assist mode, but it gives total control over the entire movement and dash ability. So that wouldn't stop you from overpowering yourself whenever you're frustrated with a particular level. Megaman, on the other hand, only changes tiny elements for each difficulty, like the number of lives, damage taken and checkpoints, but it still maintains the challenging aspects of being a tough as nails platformer. You have to learn the enemy attack patterns, or read the level layout for pits and spikes, also deal with the complexity of each room as you progress through a level. Take Acid Man stage for example. You're introduced to these spider bots that can drop on you if you don't time your movement properly. Immediately after which you meet Pipettos, who spurt toxic chemicals at you, so you have to take them down quickly to avoid falling into acid. A few rooms later, you're also introduced to these depressing looking cleaning brushes who really don't like you getting in their space. Oh, and these shield attackers do pop up here and there. Then these spider bots and the Pipettos are combined in the same room, upping the challenge a little bit than before. A few more rooms later, the cleaning brushes are combined with spikes and a liquid current that flows towards the direction that you're moving, which can get tricky if you don't time yourself properly. There are also rooms where you just catch a breath or just platform down with no enemies. That gives a nice break in the level. This flow of challenge stops to a halt for a mini-boss that spins around quite a bit and deploys these cleaning brushes from earlier. Then you acquaint yourself with these rotating platforms along with Pipettos. And again, the brushing bots are back, but in an ascending pillar with spikes. And in the room below is a brushing bot with a rotating platform and spikes. This all culminates in a room where you have rotating platforms with brushing bots along with spikes and shielded attackers. It's challenging as you have to climb up avoiding all these obstacles and hazards, which leads to a zigzag spike room with brushes in between, and then one last Pipettos room later you face the Acid Man himself. So that stage was themed in acid and introduces new enemy types, environmental hazards, and different room types that in any difficulty is still challenging to the player in different ways. You still die at once when you fall into a pit or even hit a spike. It also ditches the 8-bit aesthetic for a more modern take with 2.5D graphics in a 3D space. But it's still the old Mega Man that you know and love with its core gameplay pillars, but now with just a fresh coat of paint. Of course, you can't beat a pixel art game when it's done right, just look at The Messenger or Shovel Knight. But this design gives a more modern look and is more appealing to new age gamers who've never played a Mega Man game. Coming back to the double gear system for a bit, segues are hard. And it's an addition that I found myself hardly ever using and only ever did when I made a misstep or to dodge an attack. Now I'm just an average gamer until one of you guys says that I suck in games. So I think Mega Man really bucks that trend of making games more accessible by just making it easy. Games used to be hard, and that's where we enjoyed them back in the day, like Contra, Crash Bandicoot, and suddenly most of the games got easier in the name of accessibility. I remember playing Bioshock Infinite and you never really die and lose progress. But games like Dark Souls and Cuphead came around reminding us how games can be challenging and fun. I think Mega Man 11 sits right in the middle where it's still accessible but has tough as nails platforming and skillful combat. It almost feels like modern games are trying to reconcile with themselves by going back to their roots but also making things accessible. I for one am glad that games like Mega Man 11, Sekiro and Dead Cells exist because it's so common for most games to just be easy. Hey, thanks for watching. Let me know what your favorite non-controller breaking game is in the comment section below. Also subscribe if you want to support my channel and like the video if you did. Cheers.